allegations of what people say, because they make these allegations that are significant for the case. I mean, I can tell the number of times the prosecutor says, well, your guy said blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You know what I mean? So how do they get to this? Well, number one, they report, he told me this. Do they have a recording of it? No. Does anyone in the world not have a phone that records something these days? Do you think they have it on them? They're police officers. They have an iPhone. Or some kind of smartphone or something. They don't carry some other thing. They call on that, text on it, or if they have another one, they still have the other one. Why can't they use it? I don't use my personal phone at work, and we're talking about, or you don't have one? I mean, I know that all these grant funds that they get, they're all ordering iPads, when they get from the MMA fund. Anyways, so no recording.
Nope.
And they report in the reports what they observe. Now, the transition from their observation that took place to writing the report, sometimes it's days, sometimes they'll say they take notes, and in particular, when they're interviewing someone, they sometimes will say that they take notes. But usually, and this is the most peculiar thing, is that after they take the notes, they will destroy them.
Oh. Why is
after
that?
they write the report. They look at them, they write the report.
Like a cheat sheet kind of thing.
It's like a cheat sheet
like
for the report.
Handwritten even.
Yeah.
Correct. And
Jeez, I wonder if people can still write these days.
you say, like, really, why did you do this? Well, that's just with their policy. So then that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Like whatever it was, and this is of no consequence, and they say it's a policy, and ho-hum, that's how it is. There's nothing peculiar about
And then their
that.
word, the report is gospel at that point.
It is what they recall, because the report is so they can
Yeah.
refresh their memory back later. But the most remarkable thing happened. As we were questioning, and the questions were like, well, who was it that was there at the time? He's like, I don't really remember. Let me check. I'm like, what are you looking at there? Oh, my notes that I took from. Wait a second. You have the notes.
The ones
okay?
that were destroyed.
The one. No, well, we didn't find out. We was most assumed they were destroyed because they had a report, but rarely are the notes kept. So when these things were turned over, you see again the stamping of emblematic police activity, which was there was. First of all, nobody knew who took the notes. Nobody of the two officers that were in the room knew who wrote them. None of them had quotes on them. You know what I'm saying? Like an actual statement. They're like ideas that can be transformed into a storyline later on.
Well,
Okay?
I mean, if you just go back to the simple fact of what they're looking for, because they have to do a job to get that conviction. That's what their job is. Like, there's only words on here about the conviction, right?
Of course.
Like, when I'm telling them I'm a medical marijuana caregiver and I'm a patient, like, the law net guy said, I don't care. This is looking at the DEA guy, like this is a different story now. But then that's the guy that's writing all the notes that like come out. So it's just like wow, like all those notes, there was nothing in there about blah 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 blah, all the goods. Like they literally track so many negatives because they have to have that.
The net. It's like a
the
net.
that perfect report, this awful person that exists in the world, and we need to do something in society to make this go away.
That's why people should never, ever, ever talk to the police.
Yeah.
Well, and even if you just sneeze sometimes, you get this. It could be like
It
nothing.
can never help. There's no upside.
Well, of course, but I'm saying even when you don't, they'll say that you say something. You know what I mean? And there's no way to disprove it. What's the difference?
You call Comorn Law, and then you show up with your lawyer.
Well,
and let your lawyer talk, and he will.
What was interesting about it was that the third accused was kept in the case, if at all, because of his purported statement. I would say,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? His purported statement. And when we got down to the nitty gritty of what this thing really was, and they didn't know who said it, whatever, it was the path that I think got him out. For most, because they couldn't really, because that was like the evidence that he may have had some whatever. I didn't know what the fuck was going. We're not committing crimes.
Right.
But it was. I don't even know. It was such a stretch. But that was just an example of the string that was keeping these, in their view, these things together. And
I mean, if you give Reader a little credit, what did they say, preponderance of the evidence, and then they moved to circuit court, and then
probable
finally,
cause, lower.
Cause,
yep.
Yeah. So I mean, when Hattie finally saw that and heard from, I think they did. I think the judges did pretty good. I don't think they were unfair in the process, but
no.
Again, I mean, I think they're just hey, you guys battle it out here.
Part of
you
the
know what I mean?
machine.
Well, here you go. I'll
right?
say this. Fair in the sense that we get our days in court. Okay, reader put up with us. You know what I mean? And they don't get most. They don't do that. Because they're and especially now because all these judges are on this. Judges say you're at timelines that they have all the time.
They got
so
a boss to report to, right?
well, it's not supposed to be that way. The boss is the people that they put them on to dispense justice, not some court administrator that says your stats are off. That are
I think
that's
Hattie
not
referred to the
court administrator's
court
office,
administrator. Yeah.
Court
Well, they get
administrator is
reports
like-
on the age of the
keep
case.
this moving,
King of the
or
castle.
I got to report it up.
If you knew how many times it said to me, and it's at the, negatively to my client, we need more time. We want more time. They haven't given us some. Too bad. We're moving forward because this case is old. That is not a thing. Like everything else about the defendant, like his right to counsel, his counsel's availability, his right to have a trial, whatever they want to do, is what we are talking about and protecting. This concept that that the age of the case is something is a problem. But anyway, so we got the emblematic story with how they make these confessions go, and then of course.
And then there was facts on that sheet, right, that didn't match up to the facts that they wrote in the police report. So we to prove certain facts wrong real quick, we said, is this the what you used to write your report from, or did you write your report from, at some point,
and then where
them in,
right? And where did you get, as you wrote in your report, this sentence when it doesn't appear anywhere on your notes?
Right, and let me refresh my memory from the report that's not accurate. That's what we should refresh my fallible memory from.
It is. It's a.
Yeah, and then convict you on multiple felonies based on that flawed recollection.
Yeah.
The facts are flying by them, and they're only seeing and hearing, the ones that are of significance.
Yeah.
And
Don't talk to the police.
so along the way, and I think what it is like they don't usually get pushback. The MMA allows for some pushback. Like we knew, no matter what, whatever marijuana they said ended up with, that you had sick people that you were interacting with.
Yeah.
And that was going to be the story that from the very beginning. And the point I was trying to make earlier was about the MMA versus the story that the police tell. This is trafficking because we're trained. This is what we know, and blah, 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 blah. Well, they don't know anything about medical marijuana. And the medical marijuana defense is allowed to come in and say, no, this is medical.
Yep.
And they can't really respond to it. One of the things that stands out, and this is so outrageous, it really is, like Tony testified in the case. We did a Section 4 immunity. There was allegations of cannabis plants at one location, and
there were cannabis plants at a caregiver's house.
Right, in
It's
his
so
numbers.
weird.
But there was 2 charges, one involving manufacturing plants and one involving marijuana, too much marijuana, possession with intent to deliver. So the marijuana that was the bulk marijuana that they were alleging for the second count was not dried. It was wet. Tony testified in this regard. We actually had an expert as well. We went and examined it. It's terrible. I think the expert got sick from it, actually.
I'll bet. It
But,
probably was a little moldy after all that time.
But
I mean, just to step back real quick, like, Michael, you had to explain to the prosecutor and the judge what they had to make sure that they were looking for the prongs for the Section 4. We had to refer to new updated case law. I mean, this whole thing at that, what was that, year 3 or 4 in the court? Like at some point, things have changed so much since the charges were even brought forward. And, to be the educator to tell them what to look for and then go through my testimony and everything, that part is just amazing that they really don't. There's so much going on.
Well, the thing with the not usable marijuana, they don't consider usable or not usable. It's just everything's marijuana. It's either plant or marijuana, whatever. Is another one of these emblematic gotchas, where they don't know any different. And for a long time, this was always one of the ways that they pulled people out of your immunity, right? And then as this was, you were like a victim of one of those things in that it was not usable marijuana. They knew it. They described it, right? But they didn't care. And the
hot box.
And the law, and the law at the time, even though it had not been clarified. And then we got the opinion in Manuel, which was a great case that said that usable marijuana is the only marijuana that would count towards your volume limitation, and unusable marijuana is not to be counted towards your weight. very sensible, interpretation I think that most of the community understands. And we had one of the counts completely dismissed, relying upon that case.
Yep.
And you think that it's over. And we actually
You would think.
educated them. In fact, I had to do a motion to reconsider. Remember? Because they originally denied it.
Denied.
We denied, and I re-explained it to them.
Again, educated them.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
So then you had to file a motion to reconsider, obviously.
No, motion to reconsider, and he got it. He came back and agreed with us. He said, in light of that case,
I think the prosecutor said something that I wasn't talking about. That I was talking about this the plant merit, like it's still valid. Like that was like his rebuttal, I think, to part of that. And
there was an interesting nuance in this that we fought about versus charging and in immunity or defense, which we still would be fighting about today, and not. But anyway, so they ruled in our favor, and then as we were gearing up for the rest of the one count that remained, this Mansour case came out, which says right in it we're overruling Manuel and the opinion and so prosecutor moved to reinstate the charge.
Boom.
All right, but one of the things that's so incredible is Tony's testimony. It really is like a work of art, and I mean that. And he started out with like, there was no, because it is what it is. Like, you're going to tell it the way it is. He's been a caregiver for, at that point, for 4 or 5 years, and he's just like, I've grown this many plants. I've had this many. It's all there right on the record. It was
it was mind blowing. Like looking at Judge Hattie's face when I was explaining what I have done for all these years.
Right.
Like to watch him just be like, so you are saying that you did grow marijuana? You are saying that you've done this?
Like you give some numbers.
You almost got me.
No, that's what I was going to say. I moved to have him qualified as an expert. Like I just heard him tell his story of how many times he's, and his involvement and training and his expertise in the business. And I was like,
seminars,
books, going to all the conferences.
There's actually a definition of
an expert.
To define an expert.
And I said, it wasn't even my intention, but just like listening to this, he certainly met him. The judge was like, like he lit a pause because he knew I was right. And he said, well, I'll just take, like he just passed over it. But it was like, but it wasn't my intention to do that because it's the defendant who's going to stand. But if someone's going to, it's probably never happened. Like where the defendant becomes. But it was the right
Still a
thing.
Good move to do.
But it was he was I know that
he was listening. To be very sincere, he was definitely listening to the facts of what was going on.
Well, I'll tell you something. He
And making that point, he said if he wanted to qualify me as an engineer, he would have done that.
Yeah,
like he would have qualified.
Right.
With my college background and stuff like that, he said he would do that. And honestly,
it didn't matter. Yeah.
When we started going through that, everything that my testimony, like at some point, he's just listening to it, and he wanted to recap. He was taking good notes. And there's some just things that the prosecutor, I don't even think he was listening. Maybe he was or he wasn't. But, again, like the machine, he's got to jump up. He's got to have some statements that he's making. And then hopefully it ties together the story. We always joke that somebody got a white sheet of paper and painted some story. Then this is the story. We got to make sure everybody sings till the end.
Well, as it goes, you explained this process. The judge, and I think this is the other thing. This is one of the, and I know this from past experience with that judge. He, when he's going to say this case is about, cops, corn, Fourth Amendment, blah blah, but he's going to listen to the story, and you're telling the story, and it's a real story. It's a medical story. It's like of an expertise, skill set, and he was taking notes. He was keeping track of things, and whether he's able to stay up, keep up. It's still a lot of information, and certainly a level beyond most. But he could take away that you knew what you were talking about, and he could take away that the not just skill set but passion and the lengths that you went to provide cannabis for the patients and being able to talk about it, describe it was just would set it all together, which is what happens. It's that version of the police calling it trafficking, and then this very specific medical explanation that's given that that they can't touch. It's just, this is just, everything's trafficking. No, this is how we do it, and this is why I do it. And there's the scissors right there that have some trimming, because I said I'd trim over there. And here's the